In this video, I'll be showing you how to create a simple sales dashboard using Google Looker Studio. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Looker Studio, this was formerly known as Google Data Studio, and they've now rebranded and they're calling themselves Looker Studio. It's basically a free data visualization and business intelligence tool offered by Google for the more smaller or simpler use cases. So what I really like about Looker Studio is it's free, and at the same time it's very easy to use and user friendly. So anyone can just go into Looker Studio and start creating their first dashboard. Obviously, this does come with some drawbacks, so you don't get some of the more advanced data modeling features that are offered by tools like Tableau or Power BI and so on. So the dashboard that I have here is this simple sales dashboard that I created using a sales data set. So what I'll do in this video is basically show you how to recreate this dashboard from scratch, and I'll go through the whole process step by step. So the data set that we'll use for this video, I have it saved here in this Google Sheet. So it's basically some sales data that shows me at an order ID level, what was the sales for each transaction. So for example, for this date, we have this product that was sold. We know what category that product belongs to. We know the location where the order was sent to, the number of units sold, the unit price, and then the total sales, which is just the units sold times the unit price. So what we'll try and do is ingest this data set into Looker Studio and basically try to visualize this data in a simple dashboard. So what I'll do first is go into our Looker Studio UI. So what we'll do is basically create a blank report. So I'm going to click on blank report over here. And that is going to open up this page where you can choose to connect data to your dashboard. So in this case, I want to connect data from a spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on Google Sheets. But before that, let me just show you kind of the wealth of options that are available to connect to Looker Studio. So there's quite a bit here. You can connect data directly from databases that you have on BigQuery, Redshift, or other SQL tools as well from Google Cloud Storage, Microsoft SQL Server, and you can easily connect to a wealth of Google tools as well, like Google Analytics, Google Ads, and there's a bunch of third-party connectors as well that you can make use of. So yeah, so for the purposes of this video, I think we just need to connect to Google Sheets. So I'm going to click Google Sheets, and then I'm going to click on the cafe sales data and select sales data as the sheet. I'm going to leave this checked and then click add. So I'm just going to click add to report here. And there you have it. So we have our blank dashboard report over here. So by default, it created this chart based on what it thinks might be useful for us, but this honestly doesn't look too useful, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And then the first thing I like to do is actually configure my page settings to kind of match the dashboard that I'm trying to create. So in this case, the canvas doesn't seem as wide as I would like it to be. So what I'm going to do is go to current page settings and then style, and then I will make this 1400 pixels by 900 pixels, and that should be all set. Cool. Now we're going to name our dashboard. So I will name this sales dashboard, and then the first thing we'll try and do is create a header. So we want to give our dashboard a name, right? So I'm going to create a simple header by dragging over here a rectangle shape, just like this. And then we will change the background color. So I will select this teal color over here. So now that we have our header, I'm going to go in and give our dashboard a title called Sales Dashboard. I'm going to just change the font to this one and then click on bold. I'm going to make this white so that it's more legible, and then we'll just increase the font size to 20 pixels. Cool, now that we have our nice looking header, the next thing we'll want to do is create some filters. So before creating any charts, what I like to do is insert a date range. So I'm going to click on date range control over here, and we're going to add it here. For the auto date range, I'll select this year, click apply, and then for the style, this is totally up to you, but in my case, what I like to do is give it a background color so that it's, it has a bit of a contrast with the background. And at the same time, I prefer to have rounded corners just like this, so the filter looks a bit more professional. So once we have our date filter, the next filter I will add is a drop down list over here. So in our data set, we have fields like product, category, and state. So it would be really cool to filter our dashboard by these kind of dimensions so that we can drill down and slice and dice the data using these dimensions. So I'm going to select style and do the same thing, apply the background and the rounded corners over here. And then I'm going to drag the dimension that I want. So I want to filter by product. So I'm going to select product from our right-hand pane over here and drag it over to our control field. And there you have it. So now this drop down gives me the ability to filter by any product. So now what I'll do is try and basically duplicate this. And instead of product, I will change the field to category. And then I will duplicate this again. And then change the field to state. So I have successfully set up 4 filters over here: the date, product, category, and state. And we will be able to filter our dashboard by these 4 filters. So let me just move this to the top a bit so that we have enough space for the rest of the dashboard. Perfect. So the next thing I'll create is the scorecards. So just to show us a high-level overview of some of the key metrics like sales, orders, units sold, and so on. So I'm going to do add a chart and then click on scorecard over here. And what I'll do is add sales into this. And then we want to make sure that the aggregation is sum because we want to see the total sales. So I'll name this total sales. And for the data type, we want to select currency. So I'll select currency and then US dollar. Cool. So what I typically like to do in this scorecard is give it a background as well. So I'll go to the style and then background. I'll give it kind of a light blue background so that it has a bit of a contrast with the rest of the dashboard. Perfect. And then I will change the font as well to the same as our header. So that should be this one, and then I will center everything. What I also like to do is give this a bit of rounded corners as well. And then one cool feature that you can also add is to have a comparison indicator. So if I want to see my total sales compared to last year, for example, in the comparison type, I can click on period. And the comparison date range, I can just check this and select previous period and then apply. So that now gives me a comparison period. So you can now see that the total sales for this year was 21% less compared to last year. Cool. So now that you have your sales scorecard over here, what you can do is basically duplicate this to create the rest of the scorecards that you need. So I'm going to create one for units sold as well. Or before that, maybe let's create one for orders. So for orders, it's going to be, we don't have a metric specific to orders, but how we can calculate the total number of orders is basically drag the order ID into this and then do a count distinct, right? So basically the number of unique order IDs that we have in our data set here will be reflective of the number of orders, right? So we will do number and then count distinct and then just call this orders. Perfect. Now we will duplicate this again and then drag units sold. So I'm going to drag units sold over here, and we will leave this as sum because we want to see the total number of units sold. Now we have our three key sales metrics: sales, orders, and units sold. So we can also look at some of the more derived metrics. For example, if I wanted to look at average order value, meaning for each order, what was the average kind of basket value or average order value. So I can do that by duplicating the total sales scorecard. And then the only thing I'll change here is instead of sum, I want to see the average, right? So this will show me the average sales per order, basically. So then I will rename this to say average order value. Perfect. Finally, I will duplicate this again and create our last metric, which is average order size, meaning on average, how many units were sold in each order. So same thing, we will get the average and then call this average order size. So my scorecards are a bit long here, so they're kind of extending beyond the dashboard page. How I can easily fix this is by selecting everything and then, oops, yeah, there you go. And then just reducing the width so that everything fits within the dashboard page. Just like this. Perfect. So now that we have our scorecards, the next thing we'll do is create some visualizations or charts that can help us understand our sales data more clearly and more visually, right? So what I'll want to do first is to see the sales breakdown by category. So I might be curious to see how the sales was distributed among the different categories. So how much of our sales was contributed by coffee, how much of the sales was contributed by tea, for example. So I could do this by creating a simple donut chart. Since we only have two categories, coffee and tea, this chart is actually perfect to show the breakout between the different categories. So I'll change this from product to category over here. Now I can customize this pie chart or this donut chart using the setup and style options over here. So the first thing I want to do is to add a title. So I will call this sales by category. And then I'm going to center this, make it the same font so that everything's consistent. There you go. And then change the color. Cool. And then for the legend, I think I prefer this at the bottom. So I will move the tea and coffee legend to the bottom. And then we can also give it a background color. So I will give it a small kind of very light shade of gray so that there is a bit of contrast. And then you can also change the font color of the labels. So I'm going to go to label color and then change this to white. Cool. So one thing you could also do is change the colors of each slice. So I'm not liking these colors too much. So what I can do is go into manage dimension value colors over here and then select the color for each category. So for coffee, I can choose something like this, darker shade of brown. And then for tea, maybe something like this, like a green, so that now I can clearly see the difference between coffee and tea. Perfect. So that's our sales by category chart. Now we can also look at sales by product. So what I'll do is duplicate this chart. And then instead of category, I will drag in product. And I'm actually going to change the chart type. So as a data visualization best practice, usually if you have more than 2 to 3 categories, you should never use a pie chart or a donut chart. So in this case, I'm going to change the chart to a simple bar chart like this. And then I will change the style options. So these grid lines are not adding value to my chart. So I'm going to basically go ahead and hide them. I can go to grid and then set the color as transparent, just like this. And then we don't need this sales legend here because I already have the title here, which is sales by category. So under legend, I'm going to click none. And then under the color, I'm going to select something that's more consistent with the rest of the dashboard. And then I will click on show data labels so that it shows me the actual number of sales, or actual sales amount rather. So we want to make sure that our sales here is showing in currency as well. So I'm going to click on US dollar. And then we want to make this bold as well so that it's more clear. So there you have it. So this is our sales by product chart. I'm going to rename this to product. There you go. And just make this a bit bigger and wider so that all the product names are clearly seen. Next, we will try to create a chart that shows us sales by location. So again, I'm going to duplicate this chart. And then instead of product, I'm going to drag state into product. And what that did is essentially replace the product with the state dimension. I'm going to drag the width over here to make this look a bit nicer. And then we will change the title to sales by location, just like this. Perfect. So our dashboard is looking really good. We have some filters, some scorecards to show us high-level performance, and at the same time we have some breakdowns showing us sales by category, sales by product, and sales by location. So next, what I'm going to add is a monthly sales trend chart so that we can see how our sales did month over month. So I'm going to add a bar chart over here. And then for the dimensions, we want to see the sales by month. So I'm going to drag date into dimension. And then I'm going to select month by going into data type, date and time, and then month. And then it would also be cool to break this down by category so that we can see how our sales performed for each category. So that's like coffee versus tea. So I'll drag category into breakdown dimension. And then we want to see sales. So that's perfect. Our metric should be sales. And then for the sorting, we want to sort this by month. So instead of sales, I will select date. And then click on ascending, and there you have it. So we can now see our sales for each category month over month. So now let's just customize this chart. So the first thing I'll do is, again, get rid of these grid lines because they don't really help. So I'm going to click on transparent, and then I just noticed that our months are incomplete, so we only have until October. So the reason behind that is the maximum number of bars set here is 10. So I'm just going to change this to like 100, for example, so that we have the complete data. And then we will apply the same styling. So I'm going to add a background color to this and a title as well. So we will call this monthly sales trend. I'm going to change the font to match the rest of the dashboard. And then have this centered. Just change the color as well. Perfect. And then we also want to add data labels so that it's more clear how much sales we did for each category. So then we'll also need to change the sales to show us values by currency. So I'm going to select US dollar and then currency and then default. Perfect. For the decimal precision, I think we should just make this rounded off to the nearest number. So that looks much cleaner. And there you have it. So we just created a simple sales dashboard. Now, if you want to view this, what you can do is click on this button here, view, and it will basically go out of the edit mode and show you the dashboard from a user's point of view, right? So we can also try to test this out. So if I want to filter this for a certain product, for example, if I'm interested in the sales of bold black tea, for example, I can check this and then the entire dashboard will filter to that specific product. And then I can just click on select all to go back to the default view. If you want to share this to others, you can also click on share and then basically provide anyone with the link or with the access so that you can share the dashboard with other users. So there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful, and don't forget to like and subscribe.